You're listening to the IMT Show with Mike Sims. Now here is your host.
I first published my first book, Victim, and Victim was actually came to me in 2005 as a short story. I just started my new job at the company that I worked at for 16 years at, and enjoy very much. It's been the best job I've ever had in many ways, and I think the world of the owners and the people I work with quite a bit. I really do. They I had just been through a year of unemployment with a newborn on top of all that. After the software company I worked for had basically went under, and it was a hard time and it was a hard struggle. That was in 2003. That was a year that 1.2 million IT people were. It was an IT recession. I was going to interviews with 30 and 40 people, and you would go to job fairs and they would have big signs up no IT jobs. It was a horrifically tough time, and everything was about we were about to lose everything. It and then I finally landed a temporary job to fill in for somebody that was sick. And a contract company had hired me, asked me to interview for this job, and I didn't even know who this contract company was or how they found my resume. But I went to the interview, and I was supposed to fill in for a week until the gentleman came back. And first day, it was a mid-sized company with about 1,500 computer users. First day I set up my workstation and they set me up my accounts, and then the next day I came into work and the entire IT team had to travel to other branch locations to do things, and I was there by myself to take care of all 1,500 computer users. And by lunchtime, I managed to clear the entire bucket of issues and had mapped their network and made suggestions and managed to keep everything under control for the entire week. After the next Monday, the IT director looked at me and said, "You're hired," and that broke the unemployment. Still, it was a tough job. It wasn't a very good job in my opinion, but it floated us and kept us going until I answered an ad for the job that I'm at, and the owner had put a simple one line ad in the newspaper, and so I sent my resume and hand wrote, "Here's my resume." I didn't take it really that seriously, but he interviewed me, and and I got the job, and it's been a great company and great job ever since. But as soon as I started, a short story had popped in my head about a an indomitable woman, a woman that has been through harsh times. She's a rape survivor from her teens, and she's older now, in her late 30s. And a man has stalked her by the name of Tim, and her name is Vicky. Tim decides to assault her in her house, and what he doesn't know is that she has multiple black belts in the martial arts and extremely tough, extremely intelligent, and beats the crap out of him basically, and then decides that she's going to stalk him and teach him a lesson. It was meant to be a dark comedy short story that just popped in my head, and I started writing it. And as I wrote it, like a lot of my stories, they take a life of their own as I'm writing. And before I knew it, this story had turned dramatic and ended quite differently than I expected.
I'm going to show you what it is to have your life ruined. And I know there is nothing you can do. This will be therapeutic for both of us. I haven't even gotten started yet. Don't you know that? It is over when I say it is. You are going to know what it is to be a victim.
And I looked at it in astonishment because it was a lot different than any short story I ever wrote. And I said to myself, this is not a short story. This is a novel. And I don't know what to do with it. So I shelved it for about 8 years. And then we went through a lot of changes at work. My boss had passed away, and so we had a lot of things to adjust to. And around that time, like a light bulb went off. I knew how to write that story into a novel, the whole story, not just that story, but Vicky's entire life. So I began to write Victim, which is VIC/TIM, which is a play on the names Vicky and Tim, and the word victim, because both of them were and are. I wrote it took me about 2 years to write the story. And I had the help of Melinda along the way. And then Nicole jumped in to help edit. And she employed the help of some relatives, which would have been a great help as well, and very critical. Some of them are literary majors and literary professors. So that's quite a bit of stuff there. I had an astronomy character, so I employed a friend of mine that's a scientist for NASA by the name of Michelle Thaller, and who is fairly famous in her realm, and she has her own shows and her own stuff, and she gave me some great behind the scenes insight about what it is to be a scientist and especially astronomy. And I took everything that she gave me, and which was quite a bit, and made the characters more real. And also got advice of other relatives and people that were lawyers and so forth for the other characters, and put this story together. It was, even though I knew Vicky's entire life, this is a fraction of her life, with the idea that if it ever became a series, then I would already have it all laid out. I self-published it on Amazon, and after I put it out there, I thought, well, that's that. I've taken that off my bucket list. I wrote a book. There it is. And I submitted it to over 500 literary agents on its merit, and not knowing even how to even submit a project to literary agents, just emailed them all. It was turned down by every one of them, all 500. And and so I submitted it to second tier publishers, which are publishers that don't require an agent, but they're not as powerful as the big five. Didn't hear anything from any of them, except for about 3 or 4 months later, I got a message from Tate Publishing. Tate Publishing was they were based out of Oklahoma. They had about 30,000 authors to their repertoire. Plus, they also had a music division and so forth. They were considered by many as a vanity publisher, that they sell you a lot of things, a lot of packages and things to try to get you more money out of you. But I didn't have a problem with their business model as a model. They were wanting $4,000 deposit per book. And if you sold 2,500 books, then you got your deposit back. plus your royalties and so forth. I didn't have a problem with that because when you consider the cost of editing video book trailers, uh, layout people, editors, and all these people, that these million little parts that it takes to make a book happen, $4,000 even as an expense is nothing. It really isn't in the book industry. It's especially when they're making your books returnable, which means that bookstores are attracted to carry them if you can convince them to do it on credit, and they absorb the cost of if books are returned. So I didn't have a problem with it at all, but except for the fact that I didn't have $4,000. So I turned them flat down, and they contacted me and told me that my book was controversial, like 50 Shades of Grey, and which I thought was interesting since they were a Christian publisher, that, you know, and that they would be wanting something controversial, but they wanted it. They wanted it bad, and they were willing to, almost for nothing, publish it and publish any other book I wrote after that for nothing. And just I knew that they had some financial issues and some controversy. I did find that a fellow classmate of mine had published about 8 books with them, and he had told me that they were a little bit slow about paying royalties, but they paid, and he had no problems with them, that they had managed to get him his books in 400 libraries, and they get you hopping along. So, you know, that's it was a quantum leap from self-publishing on my own. So I submitted it to them, and they had me going and hopping and getting author pictures and getting this and asking for that, for scripts for the video book trailer, and they had suggestions for different cover designs, and then I would throw my, you know, what I wanted out of it and so forth, and it was exciting. And it took about 8 months until they finally released A Victim, and it was beautiful. The editing was pretty good, and they got it out there. It motivated me enough to where when readers started reading it, they started asking more about who Vicky was, because this was in the middle part of her life. They wanted to know how she got this way, how she became so smart, how, you know, how did Vicky become this way? So I decided to make it a series. I made Victim number 4 in the series out of a 6 series book, and started working on the prequels. So I started the first book, aptly named Vicky. I wrote that book in 30 days. And to me, it was more just an introduction to the series and the character. I didn't think it would do very well, but it ended up being, I got more response out of it than any of the other books so far. I was really surprised. I had rape survivors that emailed me and told me that it was like reading their experience in their life, and that I had got it right, because in the book, I described what happened to her. And I was very, very careful and respectful in that, because I wanted to express the emotion and harshness of that event, but not be overly descriptive. And it really touched me, the emotions that the people that had what they expressed. So I wrote the next book, Valkyrie, which was not as heart-wrenching, but kind of her rising to power and becoming in full bloom who she really is. And this book was where she takes on an evil corporate game called the Lazarus Game, and after college, this is her settled job she settled on, and she also takes on an issue. She works for a marketing company, so she takes on the publicity issue of a mega preacher that has got a major controversy brewing around his ministry. And some people have asked me, is this book specifically about a certain preacher, evangelistic televised preacher out there? And no, I was not thinking of anybody in particular when I wrote it. But I wanted to put Vicky on the world stage, publicity wise, with her talents. But also, it set the stage for the book that I'm finishing up right now, which is fills in the gap in the Vicky series prequels, called Violet. And Violet, because Vicky has hindered the Lazarus game, the corporate game played on interns, this game was invented by Violet. And Violet is a global, world powerful, behind the scenes woman of a very powerful family. And she's decided that she's going to torture Vicky and make her life miserable for affecting something that was an important project for her. And so Violet introduces is another heart-wrenching book because it really gets harsh in places, and it steps Vicky up in understanding how the world works and how very wealthy people see things, especially ones that have a lot of power, allegedly. So it's hopefully it's an interesting book. It's in beta reading right now with beta readers to offer suggestions. And then I'll go in and put in what is called the bumpers, on the chapters, more descriptive of what's happening in each chapter, because it's mostly just dialogue right now, so that readers will know where we're at, what's happening. And then it'll go to editors. And I've settled on a couple of editors that, and I'll pick one of them, and that I think will be really good for it. Then it's through my company, I do all the layout, and I've already got the cover design already done, and do book trailers, which I do book trailers for me and other authors, and get that marketing going. So in the middle of these podcasts, I'll be announcing when Violet is out. Then I can work on the final 2 books, which are after Victim, which would be Victory and Victoria. And Victory is we'll see what Vicky's destiny is, what all this stuff that's happened in her life has brought her to. And in Victoria is the finality of her life, and seeing how things fashioned for, and how she changed a lot of people and influenced people, and where they went and what happened to them. So I hope you enjoy the series. It is an adult drama. It is very harsh in places. I've had people tell me they've had to put it down for a while and collect themselves. I've even had a couple of men that said they liked the story, that hate Vicky, and literally for over an hour berate me about how she's too smart, too powerful, not nice. And my resultant, reply to him was that, if a fictional character really bothers you that much, then you probably need to look in the mirror, because it's not her, no, there's no woman that can be too smart or too powerful or too anything. They are what they are. And if it's a problem for you, then it's not them. So it's but the fact that it elicits an incredible emotional response it humbles me that people take it that much heart. I've had one actress that read it. She came off of a film shoot in the middle of the night, and she was going to just read one chapter, and she ended up reading the entire book all night long, and then told her manager she wanted to play Vicky. So it didn't work out, but but she was a tremendous lady, and she had a tremendous team, and I was very honored that they took it serious and went as far as they did with it. But we're still working to pitch and still working to try to get it into a TV series as well. And we have some good people behind it.
Hello, Mike Sims. This is Dee Wallace from E.T. and Cujo and the Howling. Hey, dude, I wanted to congratulate you on your Vicky book series and your Southern Cross sci-fi book. Woo! Let's get them on the screen. Let's make them big hits. Hey, I'm with you. So good luck, dude. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the IMT show with Mike Sims. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The IMT show is an opinion show and not to be taken as serious personal, legal, tax or financial advice. It is meant as entertainment only. IMT show, Mazarov for Mike Sims is not responsible for ad content. For more information on show schedules and content, visit www.mazarov.net/IMT.